Okay, so thanks again for having me. I wanted to put together a little bit of an update on some things, some highlights from 2022 in sustainability with the city. There are a couple things that actually technically would probably be better timed as late 2021, but I thought they were worth mentioning for the group in case I talk with many of you regularly about a range of things, but some stuff that has happened that I think is important, worthwhile, worth sharing, and then some highlights for this year coming up, some things in the work. Okay, so for tonight, just what I said, the first two items, I wanted to also share a couple of funding opportunities that we are interested in or have already applied for related to this work. And at the end of the presentation, I've included it before, but I wanted to make sure, especially because this is being recorded, for anybody who can't make it, I have a bunch of slides of different financial incentives for sustainability strategies residents can take in Naperville. So some broad highlights from the last year plus. One of the first things I did in my role was establish a cross-departmental sustainability team. So we've got people from every single department, including first responding departments in police and fire, that I work with and talk with and get input from, usually monthly, just depending on the workload for everybody on the team. Another thing that I tried to get to very early on, we do get good data from Group, which is our contractor for waste recycling, curbside services, as well as a bulk of our leaf pickup and some mixed food and yard waste service as well. But we don't get data from or reliable data from other commercial waste haulers who work in Naperville serving restaurants, commercial spaces, grocers, multifamily residential. So I've updated some of those forms and I'm starting to actually get some reporting just on different routes that they run throughout Naperville so we can get a feeling of how much waste and recycling they're picking up on an annual basis. Not perfect, but it's a good start. One of the other things that happened in late 2021 with some much appreciated input from Nest and others was we put together a letter from Mayor Chirico and City Council that we sent to IMEA that thanks them for the work they've done so far investing in more renewables, but also asking them and suggesting that anything that they end up moving away from, we did see the early cancellation of the Vistra coal contract and those coal-fired plants shut down. We wanted them to replace any of that capacity that was going away from fossil fuel into renewables. In some cases, they will be adding some nuclear just so that it's carbon-free electricity. We also offered to the city as a host site for any new technologies, emerging technologies IMEA wanted to pilot. Last year, we launched the electric lawn equipment rebate pilot. I got limited funding, $2,000 to try out offering rebates to people who chose cleaner, more environmentally friendly electric battery-powered lawn equipment. That includes mowers, edgers, trimmers, leaf blowers, as well as manually just reel mowers that are probably the best option if you can do it. This year, we are looking at adding snow blowers as well. They are a big emitter in our neighborhoods. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the budget amount we got this year to launch the inaugural full program. One of the things many of you work with me and members of our TED department and Liz Wimmer and members of TAB on assessing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in Naperville. We want people to be able to bike and walk and use different mobility options to get around as ways to promote health and well-being, but also to reduce some vehicle miles traveled and associated emissions. One of the things I've been working on for a little over a year now is working with our emerging leaders team. That's city staff that applies to be part of a program to help them build their leadership skills through some academic study, some real world projects, and some mentorship. And we wanted to take a look at, if anybody's been on the sustainability portion of the city's website, there's a lot of information there, but it's all very kind of random in the way that it's organized, just the way it's been built over the years. So we're looking at reimagining the city's sustainability webpage to make it as user-friendly as possible. I'll have an update on that too. One of the things, I saw Dr. Perkins and Dr. Birdsong from North Central College are on the call tonight. One of the things that we partnered with Dr. Perkins on early last year was worked with a group of students to do some research on green purchasing programs in municipal government. We got a lot of input, some good research from the students on what other cities are doing as we look to bolster our own procurement policies, not only for sustainability, but we're also going to be working with the DEI manager, Janice Williams, to incorporate DEI principles as well. Work in progress, but definitely something that is very important for the future. One of the big highlights that we were surprised with, thankfully surprised, was we got a second sustainability position with the city. We hired our first sustainability specialist, Liz Wimmer, who many of you may know already or may know from her past working with the Illinois Green Alliance. She's very smart, very talented, knows a lot of people, working closely on a lot of things. We're leaving together tomorrow, actually. Early tomorrow morning, we're driving to St. Louis for the Midwest Climate Summit. So we're excited about that. Also in the last year, we joined several organizations and partnerships. We officially joined as a member of ICLEI, Local Governments for Climate Action. We also joined the Midwest Climate Collaborative that started officially last January. And they're the ones putting on the summit this week in St. Louis. And we're involved in several ongoing and future Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus programs and cohorts to help us share resources and ideas and tools throughout the region with our peers. I know this is a lot of stuff that I'm going to say all at once, so hopefully we'll have time for questions at the end. One of the things that we are prioritizing this year is getting back to going beyond just the open data platform on the city's website to publish a full city sustainability report. City Manager Doug Krieger wanted to start putting it out there again, but he didn't want to extend us too much in case it was a lot more work than we expected. So we're committed so far to publishing every other year, getting started. Could eventually become annual depending on how it's received, what the perceived need is, and staff bandwidth. We are launching the inaugural electric lawn equipment rebate program coming up in a little under 2 months, about 6 weeks. We got $10,000 in the budget for 2023. So at $50 per rebate, we wanted to keep it a flat fee to reduce some of the administrative burden. That puts us up from 40 rebates across the city up to 200. So we're very pleased about that. One of the things that we're also going to be doing this year is we're going to hire a consultant to conduct an updated greenhouse gas emissions inventory. Hasn't been done in some years. We really need to figure out where we are with our emissions baseline now so we can set goals for the future. So more to come on that. Moving on, so the walkability and bikeability assessments that we're working on with our partners in North Central and others, and Nest, of course. We've been working to advance both of those efforts. They've kind of merged now, which makes sense. And we've been working with the group to get input and feedback for a community survey that we're going to be launching in March. We're going to keep it open through April, at least through Earth Day, so we can continue to use that time with more messaging around environmental issues and sustainability to get as much input as possible from the community on what they see in terms of walkability and bikeability. How easy is it to get around? What are the barriers? Are there missing connections? So it'll be good to get some more input on where they'd like to see the city focus moving forward. One of the things that we've been working closely with Nest on, Liz Wimmer, who I mentioned as our specialist, she's got a lot of experience working with green schools programs. And so she is leading our charge, engaging with Nest and the school districts to try and talk about how we can support them and share ideas and connect them with incentives to support their sustainability journey. At the same time, I joined the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce CSR Committee, that's short for Corporate Sustainability, Corporate Sustainable Responsibility, I think is the way that they say it. But the CSR committee works on a lot of philanthropy, but also DEI issues and sustainability. I'm working with them on a panel presentation to the business community coming up in March at IKEA. So I mentioned the emerging leaders, and do a quick time check. Okay. The emerging leaders, we've been working really hard to take a look at cataloging the current sustainability webpage, all the pages that have all the different types of information and links. We want it to be the central hub for people so they can find easy access to the information they need, whether it's rain barrels, solar panel rebates, EV charging rebates, bike route maps, things like that. So we expect to launch the reimagined, simpler, user-friendly webpage in March. Very excited about that. Many of you may also have seen during the budget process this past fall and winter, Public Works has led the charge with the city to draft and release an RFP for a 5-year plan, capital improvement program to transition city-owned property away from turf grass and plant more natives. So it's a plan for both transition and maintenance over time. And another one of those Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus cohorts that we'll be joining is the EV Readiness Program. They're in cohort 1 right now. We had a lot on our plate for the first round of it, so we're in round 2 that should be starting hopefully in May or June. This gives them time to work out any kinks too, so a little selfish on our part, but that should be a good way for us to prepare for the EV transition. Okay, a couple of grants. Nest has been very helpful in connecting us with some grants as they become available. We don't catch every single notice of funding opportunity, but we just applied, put together a very robust application for the EPA's Consumer Recycling Education and Outreach Grant Program. It's a mix of community education, providing for some online interactive tools to help people recycle better and recycle hard to dispose of items and hazardous waste materials, e-waste, things like that, as well as a series of audits and special recycling events and a whole host of ways to get out to the community. It's a 3-year grant cycle, and our requested amount came out to a little over $309,000. So we'll see. We should hear something hopefully late spring, early summer. And another one that is it's a very good opportunity is the Department of Energy's Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant Program. This was already on our radar to look for ways to fund some other things. We're really looking at trying to offer some more home and business and organizational energy audits to help people figure out what they can target to save energy, reduce their utility bills, and reduce emissions from the power plant. It turns out Naperville was actually part of the formula grant piece of this. So there is about $191,000 earmarked for Naperville pending a successful application. So we're building out our ideas for that right now. And then last, I know it's a whole lot of stuff really fast, so we do have some time for some questions or any more information or details anybody wants, but I did include a series of slides with links to rebates and incentives for people. So we've got the smart thermostat rebate. We've got incentives for people and businesses who choose to install electric vehicle charging stations. We have our solar rebates as well, and a range of energy efficiency grants and rebates, things like attic insulation, replacing old, inefficient, leaky windows with double or triple pane ones to save energy. And then we've also got some rebates for central air conditioning unit upgrades to increase their efficiency, and then something similar for a furnace blower upgrade and air conditioning tune-ups. And then always, NICOR has ongoing programs for both residents and businesses. I focused on residents for this one. I just took this from one of their presentations with their blessing. But it's always good to be reminded that the utility does have some stuff that is can be helpful and kind of low-hanging fruit that you can tackle at home with their help. And with that, I've already gotten to my question slide. So sorry if that was kind of gangbusters pace, but I'm glad to stop there and turn it over to the moderators and people with questions.
I have a question to get us rolling. Does the utility provide free LED light bulbs?
Yes, we actually get cases and cases of free LEDs from IMEA every year. And so we have those. I've got a couple of boxes at my office that I take to events and meetings and presentations. And then most of them, the bulk, are delivered straight to the electric utility. But yeah, we do have free LEDs.
Yeah, I tried to find that on the website, so it'll be good when everything's centralized because I couldn't find that.
Yeah, you'll see once we do launch the better, bigger, better, simpler version. We've actually reorganized things kind of like the NEST report is categorized into the different sectors that feed into the broader umbrella of sustainability so that people can find what they're looking for. We've also got other subcategories focused on incentives and linking people to things that will work for them or for their business.
Chris has her hand raised. Do you want to ask your question, Chris?
Yes. When will the sustainable purchasing policy be implemented? Because it was on the work plan for last year.
Yeah, we have been hamstrung by our finance department having a ton of unexpected turnover in like the last year, basically. So we have been kind of at the ready. Chris, as you know, we've talked with you and some others on the B&D NEST committee about how we can, what we want to make sure that we include and call out. We are still not close. Hopefully we're able to tackle that coming up in, say, quarters 2 and 3, but it's going to take a little bit longer too, because we're going to want to have that more holistic look at it, including sustainability and DEI at the same time.
Bruce, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, how are we going to participate in the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus on EV readiness? How are we doing it? What are we going to do?
Yeah, the Mayor's Caucus developed, I'm trying to remember the guy's name who runs it. I know you've probably been on calls with, it's Mark something. In any case, he put together a program with Mayor's Caucus staff that is essentially a really, really comprehensive checklist of different things within different parts of city government and permitting and codes and things like that that you can prepare for, so that when you've got the political will to go ahead, say, with an ordinance, since the House Bill 3125 didn't pass at the state level, if we want to implement something, we'll be better set up to operationalize that right away.
Yeah, I think it's still stalled, may come alive again this quarter from what I've heard. So the bill is holding us up and doing things, but I was just wondering who specifically is working with the city to move them ahead. If it's not me or somebody that I don't know anybody else who's doing it, but is there somebody that's doing it? And if not, should we just go ahead and start proactively working with them again?
Yeah, I mean, Bruce, you've always been, since I've been here, you've been the biggest proponent for sure. Kathy and Carl joined a call that I organized with the director of TED and the head of our transportation division within TED. And that was one of the things we talked about. I think that in the absence of any big push from leadership at the moment to move ahead with an ordinance, not saying that there's not a desire, I just don't know where that time frame is. I think that participating in the EV readiness cohort with the Mayor's Caucus will get us set up. I'm going to be involving people who are involved in permitting and inspection from our electric utility. Those are the people who see the requests for inspections of EV charging stations in garages. So we're going to make sure they're on board, as well as our transportation experts over in TED, so that all the departments that are kind of more operational are working with me and they're prepared.
So that they will be participating in those cohort meetings?
When able, they'll participate in the cohort meetings themselves, but if they're not going to be in the meetings with the Mayor's Caucus folks and their consultant, I will be having them as my internal team that we work through the checklist on. We've already gotten good comments from both departments on where they can weigh in on certain things.
All right, so I feel a little slippery here in terms of how the key thing, our ordinances to require new construction for multifamily housing to have, some kind of electric vehicle, readiness or installations, and offices, so that people who live outside of Naperville who don't have electric vehicle charging at their apartments or townhouses can come to work and then plug in when they're here. So those are the two key things. And it's just not going to happen unless something moves forward. And I guess, I don't know how else to say it, but I'd like to continue to be involved if that's the way to do it. Sitting and waiting for the bill to pass has just been a waste of time. It's costing a lot of people money, and that's the problem. It's going to make it really expensive later to, retrench and things to put in this stuff. So the sooner they can start it, the more money they'll save. So that's all.
Yeah, and those are the stakeholders we were looking at when we were talking about this with you and team, probably this time last year almost. And then House Bill 3125 came up, and everybody in the more operational departments were like, hey, they do it at the state level. That's great. So let's hope and pray for that. I invite you to stay involved and get back on my radar, Bruce, if we want to set up time to talk with TED staff and revisit where we were with language. We did have some initial stakeholder meetings with different developers of properties. We included commercial office, commercial retail, and multifamily residential, and they were pretty receptive, actually.
Okay, so not to belabor the point, go ahead and set up a meeting. I would like to talk to you and the TED and the folks that would be involved, because there's been some changes in the environment as well since then. So let's try to set something up.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. So just one quick before we get to Carl. Ben, can you share the slides that have the links to all the different rebate programs and things so we can post that?
Yeah, do you want me to just email the presentation slides over to you? Or? Yeah, I can do that.
That'll work, and we'll get it posted. Okay, Carl, you had a question?
I have a deep thought question for you. So you've been in a position, a few months, it'll be 2 years, right, Ben? And so you are now a seasoned employee of Naperville, city staff, and you kind of know what you're dealing with. What unrealized opportunities do you see, in the environment sustainability space that, that you would love to see happen? And, is there anything that Nest can help with?
Good question. You caught me off guard. I hadn't considered it.
Yeah, I figured I should probably ask you this beforehand so you could prepare.
I can just ramble off the top of my head and we'll see what comes out, I guess. Actually, to return back to Christina Murphy's question, I really would like to see a sustainable procurement policy in place. There was clearly a push for municipal governments back probably in the early 2010s to share like toolkits on how to build green purchasing policies for municipalities, because I've seen across like some of the research that we've seen from other cities around the country, I've seen very similar language and organization of policies to what we had. One that was drafted in 2012 for the city of Naperville that was never fully implemented. I don't know, obviously I wasn't around, and I don't think whoever drafted it was, but the opportunity is there, and I think that it's a good way to not only memorialize and require that employees in charge of purchasing make the right decisions given all factors, but also, as I've shared with you in the past, I see it as a tool for me to use it as a training mechanism to get out in front of people and not only train city staff on that said policy, but just to start talking with them more about sustainability in general and how to build that into their jobs.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
Thanks.
All right, we got one super quick question. Anybody?
What's your shoe size? No, you don't have to answer that.
I got one.
Okay, Beth, super quick.
Are you still thinking about applying for the USDA grant in the fall for the composting?
I would love to, but I think that if I keep applying for grants, I won't have time to do anything else. Honestly, I think we should keep it on our radar. And it's a good question because we had some cool ideas we were talking about, for sure. And if we do get this consumer education and outreach grant from EPA, that's going to take a ton of time to implement.
Yeah.
I can imagine it being half of Liz's job and a quarter of mine, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how many of the things get funded. And then this energy efficiency conservation block grant one is also too good of an opportunity not to try and tackle. So I think we need to kind of keep it in the back of our minds. I think it's usually due what in like mid-August or something, right?
I think it's September 1st.
Okay. So that's my quick answer is it'll depend on what we do and don't get. I would still love to do something. I think that the highest value waste stream out there when it comes to diversion is food waste. So yeah, let's keep talking about it, keep it in the back of our minds.
Good.
So, super fast meeting tonight. I know you all are used to very long nest meetings. Thank you, Ben, for the speed talk through what Naperville is doing there.